Call to order. Today is Tuesday, June 5th, and this is the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Matt, you want to take it away?
Sure. Good evening, Hanson. Here are this week's announcement. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: the 200th anniversary, capital improvement, community preservation, disabilities, economic development, elder affairs, energy, finance, Memorial Day Patriot observance, Memorial Field trustees, recreation committee, school repair, and zoning board alternate. Applications for appointment and information on the committees is available on the town website at mass-ma.gov. The town clerk's office will be closed for training at 12 p.m. on Wednesday, June 13th, and will reopen at 8 a.m. on Friday, June 15th. Please plan your business accordingly. The Historical Society will be holding its annual Strawberry Festival on Friday, June 15th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Old Schoolhouse on Main Street. Upcoming meetings are the Whitman Hanson Facilities Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 6th at 5:45 p.m. The Whitman Hanson School Committee on Wednesday, June 6th at 7 p.m. The Historical Commission on Wednesday, June 13th at 6 p.m. And Selectmen's Meeting on Tuesday, June 19th at 7 p.m. Following would be another Selectmen's Meeting Tuesday, July 10th at 7 p.m. And then lastly, another Selectmen's Meeting Tuesday, July 24th at 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. This meeting is being recorded by Whitman Hanson Cable Access. So under new business, the first thing we have on the agenda is tree warden, Dave Hanlon. Dave's a supervisor for Hanson Highway Department. He's also our tree warden.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for taking the time to see me. I just wanted to let everybody know that last Wednesday, Mr. McHugh and I had the honor of going to the lovely village of Florence, Mass., which is out part of Northampton, and we were presented with the Tree City USA Award from the Arbor Day Foundation. So there's a couple of things that I just want to show. We'll start with. There's a plaque here that can be hung up. Mr. Chairman, I'll give this to you. So decide where in Town Hall you want to hang it up.
Do we get one of those signs too, coming into Hanson? It says,
Stand by. We also have, you get a baseball hat. And since I wore baseball hats when I was younger, and did this to the hair, so this will do.
Thank you. My annual ball cap.
We also got a 4x6 flag that it took me 10 minutes to put it back in the bag. It's basically the Tree City USA flag. And what we'll do with that is during Arbor Day, Arbor Day and Earth Day, it all falls around the same time. With permission, we'll fly it at the town hall. It'll look good. And then the last thing we have, and then I'll kind of explain what some of this is. So we received two road signs to put up. We're thinking of putting one up at 5827 on the island, where it can be seen from a lot of different directions. And then the other one maybe out in front of the town hall, depending whereabouts, as long as you don't block the memorials. But with these signs, every year, there's nothing on the bottom yet, but every year you get a sticker to go over to say how many years you've been participating in the program. So basically what the Tree City USA is, I left packets for the selectmen. It's a national recognition program. Began in 1976 and is sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation in partnership with the U.S. Forestry Service, and it's administered in Massachusetts by DCR, the Department of Conservation and Recreation. There's four things that a town has to do to qualify. One of them is to have a tree board or department. That's me. We have to have a tree care ordinance, which the town adopted, Chapter 87 of the Mass General Laws. We also have to have an annual budget for the tree department at $2 per capita. So with Mr. McHugh, the Board of Selectmen, and Todd Hassett, the town accountant, the finance committee, we were able to finally raise the budget in the town up to $25,000. And then the fourth standard that you have to meet is an Arbor Day proclamation and observance. Excuse me, the allergies is getting to me from the trees. So for the last couple of years, we've had the Arbor Day ceremonies. We've planted trees at the Library Senior Center. This year we've planted an American elm tree out on the side of the town hall. And the selectmen have issued an Arbor Day proclamation every year. So there's 87 cities and towns in Massachusetts out of the 351 that are Tree City USA. So it's a very small group. And New England has the largest participation in the country. So I know you guys have a busy night tonight. I just wanted to let you know that this is something that Mike and I have been working on for the last 2 years, and we finally we achieved the goal. We got the recognition. It's something that that for the town, it's a good thing. You know, trees. We always had a tree removal program in this town, which was basically when they fell down, we picked them up. We started with National Grid in the last few years. My predecessor and I, in the last few years, have worked very closely with National Grid for the trimming of the trees, removing the hazardous trees, as well as, enforcing their vegetation management plan that they have to have. They have to present to us every day. We actually just got the one for Eversource, so they're coming through town to work on some of their lines, as well as a tree planting program. Arbor Day this year, we gave out 200 saplings to the youth sports groups and the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, and other groups to plant trees around town, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. As well as when we have a bad car accident in town and a tree gets hit, yeah, the tree's okay, and 2 or 3 years later it's dead. So we've started through our accident recovery company that the town uses in case any town property, signs, buildings, whatever are damaged. They've started removing the trees for us and then in turn planting another tree, not in the same location so it can get hit again, but someplace else here in town. So it's something that, you know, the tree department 30 years ago in this town was 4 people and they had equipment and everything, and now it's the tree warden and then the labor from the highway department, and there's only 4 men on the road for the highway department. So these storms that we had in October, we still hadn't cleaned up from the storms in October when we got the 3 nor'easters in March, and you all know the damage that was done around town. So it's something that this program, it's really nice to be recognized for doing the right thing and not just cutting trees down. You know, there's a lot. Trees contribute a lot back to us. So I know you have a very full agenda. I just wanted to present this to you tonight and say thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. I'm going to jump around just a little bit and go to appointments. Is Anders here? No? Okay. This is an appointment for a disabilities committee. I don't know if you guys, item 4 on your iPads, if you had a chance to look at her application.
Yes.
Apologize.
Application. I thought it looked great, and I'm really glad to see somebody else stepping up to join Mrs. Mills on the Disability Committee. And I know that there's some hesitancy for people to self-identify as having a disability or that their family member has a disability. So I think it's quite courageous that Mrs. Mills has done it and that Anders has done it as well. And I believe we've still got at least two openings on there, so we would encourage other people to come forward and apply. But I move to appoint Anders, and I'm not really even going to attempt his last name here, Skajurli, and I'm sure I just killed it, and I'm sorry, sir, for doing that, to the Disabilities Commission.
Second.
With term to expire 6/30/21. The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, Mary. Okay, next one is Amanda. I see Amanda out there. 200th Anniversary Committee. And here's this item 5. Now, I know Amanda's done a lot of work on the tree lighting committee for several years. She has good handwriting.
Is that a prerequisite? I move to appoint Amanda Sullivan to the 200th Anniversary Committee.
Second.
With term to expire 6/30/20. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thanks, Amanda, appreciate it.
Did you second that? Was that you?
Okay,
Jim? Is that
now back up to new business. Discussion regarding retail marijuana. So this is on the agenda because the Board of Selectmen wanted to talk about this and make a decision whether or not we wanted to move forward regarding retail marijuana shops. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to take any questions or comments from anybody else other than the board. I'll open the comments up just briefly, and then we'll just have a discussion on whether or not we want to move forward. So this started, let's see, November 2016. They had a statewide vote, as you guys know, to whether or not we wanted to legalize marijuana. So the town of Hanson said yes. It was a slim margin, but they said yes. So that was in 2016. In 2017, we went to town meeting, and we asked for, the planning board asked for a moratorium. We basically were looking for a moratorium because we didn't have all the answers back from the state, and we wanted to try to just buy some more time until we had more information to make a decision on this. So that got defeated because it didn't require, it had to meet a 2/3 vote by the planning board. So that was 2017, right?
Yeah, it was right, it was the first town meeting that Jim and I
The
had.
first town
after
meeting,
we-
right.
We were very surprised that it did not
We
pass,
were
that
very
people did
surprised.
not want to just kind of
Right.
at least take some time to be thoughtful and
Yeah,
study
and
things.
again, we
and-
were just looking for, for more time at that point. So then the governor, back in July, come up with a way for cities and towns that voted yes for, so in other words, if towns voted no for marijuana, all you had to do was go to a town meeting vote to ban retail shops, okay? If a town voted yes, then there's a 2-step process. You'd have to go to town meeting, and then if it gets approved at town meeting, and then it would go to a referendum question at the ballot, okay? So the governor come up with that in the past July to allow cities and towns, and some cities and towns have taken advantage of it. So that's what we're gonna have a discussion here. Now, I've heard from a couple people that, listen, this is, another bite at the egg, and, we've already talked about this. The two votes that we've had are totally different than what we're gonna discuss tonight, so I just wanted to put that out there. So, briefly, my personal opinion, I'm not even gonna share that because it doesn't really matter, I'm here, I got voted in to make the right decision for the town of Hanson, So I personally think that it should be left up to the voters, I think that this board should support the warrant question for October town meeting, and then go to a ballot in November, and have you guys decide whether or not we want to allow retail shops. I don't think, my personal opinion really doesn't matter. So I think we should put it out there and allow you guys as voters to come to us and let us know, what you want. So I'd like to go down and talk to my peers, and each one just tell us what you think, and then I'd like to move to a vote.
So I asked to have this put on the agenda. I believe a couple other members did as well. I think that we're here to do the will of the people. And that's what we got voted in to do. I don't think it really matters what each one of us individually think.
Right.
And I'm not here to argue for or against the moral merits, because the state has decided that it's legal. But the question before us, and I too have heard from people saying, well, this is another bite at the apple, you know, it's already been decided. But my 2 cents worth on that is, I think that, I don't know statistically how many people, but I think that a lot of people, when it was voted on at the state level, were voting on it conceptually. Like, am I okay with it in the state of Massachusetts? They weren't necessarily aware, because actually nobody could have been aware, because the Cannabis Commission and the governor didn't really clarify what that vote would mean, which would be what you just articulated, which is now you have to do a 2-step process to get out of this. Nobody knew that at the time. So I see it as, now that we've got more facts before us and it's clear what the process is, one more time with feeling. I don't anticipate continuously bringing this back. I would not endorse continuously asking the same question, but I do believe that it's important to bring it back now with the facts before us and ask people to decide whether they want it in Hanson. That, to me, is what the question is.
Yep, I agree. Selectman Bloss?
Move forward.
Okay, you're in agreement with that?
Yep.
Right, okay.
Yep,
Selectman Dyer?
I agree with everything that has been said,
Okay.
and I believe that the will of the people will really be voiced, especially with a state election coming up. I hope that everyone get out and vote, and just let's move forward with the will of the people.
Selectman Hickey?
Yes,
Yes.
I did it in less words than Wes did. It's up to the people. It's that simple, so.
Right,
yes.
okay.
So, so I'd like to
So
make
I'm
a
looking for a
motion
motion.
to place this on the next town meeting ballot, to have appropriate language for the consideration of a ban on retail marijuana sales in the town of Hanson.
Second.
So-
Motion's been made and seconded. And what we'll do is, if this is successful, we'll have a information, session,
Yeah.
down the road.
Yes.
Where we can talk about this, and you guys can offer your pros and your cons. But right now, there's a lot of things we don't know. We have town council working on it. So as we get closer, then we'll do that. So
So,
we'll allow everyone to
Kenny,
be
and
able
not
to
just,
chime in.
not just everybody here and anybody else who might be interested, but I think it would be great to have a forum, which other towns have done, before the town meeting, so that people can be educated and ask questions about crimes, revenue, whatever it is, that the process, whatever that might be. I think Mike's trying to.
Yeah, I just would ask maybe for clarification of the motion, because as the chairman indicated, there's actually 2-step, and I think the motion was just to put it on a ballot. We also need to have.
I'm sorry, town meeting and the ballot.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry. That was me, not being particularly clear on my
Any more
motion.
questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, next, under new business, it's vote and sign the dispatcher's contract. Which is, I'm just gonna find it. It's a senior
Two?
one.
No. It's not item 2.
No, I would think it would be, should be 3?
You see it?
Yeah.
No, that's the CNA, I think, number 3.
Item 2.
Is the chief going to present this? Or?
No, there's no reason to. Let me clarify it.
Okay.
The previous board already voted the MOA and voted approval of this contract. We just finally have a final version for actual signature by the board. So at this point, it's more perfunctory than anything else, just to vote to agree to sign it and sign it. It's pretty much, again, it's
So,
already been,
where we have
everything's
new
already been
members, we
agreed
should
to.
re-vote it.
Well, not re-vote it, just vote to sign it.
Just vote to sign it.
Yeah.
Well,
'Cause-
can I just ask a question? Sure. I know we're still in a bit of a purgatory on what's going to happen with the regionalization type of thing, and signing this doesn't put us in a disadvantage.
No, that was
Okay.
all discussed as we went through that process with the dispatch union, so it neither promotes or hinders.
I thought that was the case. I
Yes,
just wanted to make
yes.
sure. Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to sign the dispatcher's contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. Okay, now, item 3, which is vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the annual VNA contract. Mr. McHugh, would you
This
like to
is,
explain?
yeah, this is rather perfunctory. It's just the Visiting Nurse Association contract that gets signed every year. So there's, again, it's just perfunctory. You just need to give me permission to do it. Nothing's really changed.
Okay, so just, we do this every year, don't we? July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. So I'm looking for a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the annual VNA contract.
So moved.
Second?
Sure. Motion's been made and seconded.
Mike, I assume that we solicit feedback from the people that they're servicing to make sure that, that they're providing good service?
Yeah, the director of the senior center does that and gives that sort of feedback and gives a recommendation whether or not we should go forward, and there's been no negative feedback.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? All in favor? 5-0, Mary. Okay, we have a request for the Animal Control Officer, Mary Drake. She's requesting permission to hold a community event on Friday, July 13th, from 1 PM to 7 PM on the Town Hall Green to include a rabies clinic from 4 PM to 7 PM. When I saw that on Friday, I thought that was a great idea. See if we can find it on here.
And she's saying that people could also license their dogs
Yeah,
at the same time.
which Mary said Beth's very happy about that.
Right, so the town hall will be open between 4 and 7 when the town clerk's in, so people can go to the event and then they can come in and register their dogs.
So they can get their rabies shot and then come in and get their,
Right, because they
dog
need the
license.
rabies shot to.
Get the license.
To license the dog.
So Beth is going to extend her hours that day?
It's a, yeah, she'll come back.
Okay.
She'll come in from 4 to 7.
All right, I think it's
I think it's a
great
it's a
to
great
see
idea.
somebody taking that kind of initiative and doing something new.
I do too. And are there any Board of Health issues or anything with animals on the grounds or?
No, but she does plan on having like a food truck or things like that, so the animal control officer is going to check with the Board of Health to make sure she's.
Food truck for the dogs or the people?
For the people. She's going to have some events.
Oh,
You know,
I'm just checking.
But, not a bad idea. We can check with that. Maybe she'll have snacks.
But that's an excellent question, actually. All right, any more questions?
I move that we permit the animal control officer to hold this event on Friday, July 13th at Town Hall.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, next on the agenda, Education Committee. Request to place inserts with the tax bills.
I think Mr. Barrick is here.
Yes, how are you, sir?
I'm Gary Bennett, chairman of the committee.
Come on up. Well, we'll take the handouts if you...
Let me do these first.
Thank you.
Is this a sample of?
Yes, this is what we plan to put in, what we drafted today.
Thank you.
There's a misconception about what the Hanson Committee Fund, the fund is, and we're hoping to alleviate some of that and have people understand what it is. It's been on the tax bill for a long time, since I guess it was voted in around 93 or so. And the response isn't that good to it. We probably pull in, maybe last time was like $150 a quarter. And that's not really a lot to help the students in Hanson. So this is just an informational flyer that we can insert into it. And it's the best way to meet, to reach all these people. I understand it's like maybe, could be like maybe 4,000 bills are sent out, which is a lot,
Oh, right.
so.
So
And
this is interesting, I mean, and I know you've really resuscitated this and with the committee and brought life back to it. So if somebody had a need, a financial need, maybe they're, I don't know, they need money for books, or they need, now, you're not limiting this to primary or secondary or
Oh, no,
college?
no,
Okay, if
no.
you're a Hanson resident,
Right, that's the only requirement, being a Hanson resident.
okay. And are you getting a lot of applications, or is that also something that we need
No,
to?
we had some, last January, we bought some Chromebooks for the middle school, and the middle school and the elementary.
Yeah,
And pretty much the funds are almost gone now, so,
Is this the insert?
yes, the insert.
yeah,
There'll be a one page, one section, about the size of an envelope. And people would see it with the tax bill and understand what it
It would
is.
go right in the same envelope,
Correct.
so there's no additional postage.
No.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I would ask, and I know that Gary was under the gun to try to get this together for tonight, but we would need to coordinate this with the treasurer collector in terms of how it would fit appropriately in the billing. So an insert, generally what we do is, my understanding is, opposed to an insert, this verbiage would be printed on the bill itself. So if the board is so inclined to move forward in approval of this, what I would recommend is it be approved contingent upon coordination between Gary's committee and the town, the treasurer collector, in terms of what
Well,
actually
that was
fits
my
on the
next
bill.
step, to talk to Gene about it.
Yeah, but the way it should be voted, just to make sure, to be clear, that, they approve it contingent upon that conversation.
Mike, could we wait until that's done and then see the finished?
I don't know what the timing would
When's
be.
the next tax bill go out?
They're going out, when did she say, by the end of July, by the end of June? Is that what
I
she said?
believe so.
Yeah, that's why we
yes.
wanted to get it on now, to get the.
I mean,
think
I
the
feel
subject to
like
would be
we can
okay.
trust them to work out a good faith effort to, certainly Jean ultimately is gonna control
Yeah,
whether it
if
can go in
Gene
there or
said it's not gonna work, it's
not,
not gonna work. If she said it's gonna work, then it will.
so,
I'm fine with
There's a
it.
way to get it to work. I just want to make sure, again, that you're not voting concretely something
Yeah.
that doesn't fit, but I think that we can work together in the.
Doesn't fit what, physically or?
Huh?
I think he's talking logistics
Yeah.
of
Oh,
how that we're on,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, I move that we permit the Hanson Education Fund to work with our, with Jean, our treasurer and collector, and find a mutually agreeable way to put this in the tax bills.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more questions? All in favor?
Thank you.
5-0, Mary. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next, under old business, discuss and set selectmen's updated goals. So I received from Selectman Kemet, what we all have it, Board of Selectmen goals. So I think, and we can absolutely talk about this, like on the email, kind of a time frame. I think we should take these, give these to the town administrator and have him come back to us and give us realistic, time frame of the goals that can be completed.
Okay, so these, I have to admit, guys, I didn't put these in any particular order, like clearly getting people information regarding recreational trails is not absolutely at the top of my list. It's just one of those things that I think we'd like to do. But what I did say in the email when I sent these is, I really would like to see us get a little more discipline when we set a goal of setting a deadline, even if we have to readjust the deadline. I would rather have us have a particular goal in mind, so that we're all marching towards that date and we're trying to execute towards that date, instead of just sort of loosey-goosey, whenever we can get it done kind of thing. And I'd also like to know who's responsible for the particular goals. In some cases, it may just be Mike. In some cases, it could be, like, hey, I have a burning desire to work on this particular thing. Like, for instance, the Green Communities is going to involve the Energy Committee, which means we need to re-energize the Energy Committee. And I think that there's an opening for a selectman, so it seems to me that whomever it is that ends up volunteering to be on the Energy Committee would be the one who we would assign as being part of that goal. That's just my thoughts, but.
Yeah, like I said, I just thought that Mike would probably be the best to give us a better idea.
If he wants to do like
Just
a
a-
first pass kind of.
Yeah, just a better idea of, because I'm looking at them going, I don't know how long that's gonna take.
Yeah.
You know,
Can you do
Mike,
like
I'm
a,
gonna put you on
Yeah,
the spot.
No, you know, and obviously I looked at these prior to the meeting, and I think they're all reasonable. I think that a lot of them, as you well know, are things that we have been working towards. So I do think it makes sense, as Laura said, and I prefer to have, if it's loose, it's loose, but some sort of a deadline, you know, a drop dead date, and we can always adjust it. But again, I don't disagree. It gives you sort of a guiding light by which to steer the ship. And what I can do, and it probably won't take that long, and we could put it on the agenda for the next meeting, is I could put together what I feel are short-term, long-term. I could put dates with them. We could have a discussion about the, you know, the practicality of such that I present. And if at that point, after the rest of the board reviews this, if there are one or two things that a particular member has a real interest in, I mean, Laura and I, you and I have been working on a couple of things that are already on this list. If there's something somebody else has a burning desire to get involved with me, by all means. But, you know, at the next meeting, when I come and I give you some, you know, some outline of dates and priorities, if you had a chance to look at it, you can say, well, yeah, Mike, I'd like to talk to you about, you know, I don't know, engaging, educating residents regarding the town meeting process, so on and so forth, so.
well, these are just my goals. I don't know if anybody else submitted any.
No, not so much, but I've had conversations with pretty much every member of the board individually in terms of what they're looking to do. Actually, one of them was actually accomplished this evening. And, you know, these obviously aren't set in stone. This isn't coming down from the mount. It's a living document, and something may strike any member next month, 6 months from now, a year from now, that they want to see as a goal. So we can always add and take off, but we can always add stuff as anyone wants to add it.
Now, I'm trying to be sensitive to a comment that Matt made at the last meeting, which I thought was pertinent, but you may regret making this comment, which is that a lot of times we sit up here and we're talking about a document and nobody knows what the heck we're talking about. And it's like you need a decoder ring to try to figure out what's being discussed. So I don't know what the best way, I certainly don't want to bore people to tears and go through this list. If people want us to, we could.
Well, we can put it on the website.
Okay.
And obviously, we can make it available as a handout to anyone who comes to the next meeting. But in terms of putting it on the website, again, I conceive it as being a living document, so if it's on the website, we can change it.
Maybe add
without
those to
having
the existing goals, Mike.
Yeah, and the existing goals are here, so.
Yep.
We can compile all that, and once we make some determinations in terms of deadlines or milestones at the next meeting, we'll clean all that up and put it on the website.
Okay, that sounds great.
And actually,
good.
kind of going off of that, Mr. Chairman, would be maybe making government more transparent would be a good goal. I know Mary and I
Put on
kind of
that.
discussed kind of like, how can we get this information into our audience's hands a little bit?
Right.
And we were discussing different ideas. And
Can you add that, Mike, onto?
I just did. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Good.
more of a global thing, and not necessarily, in my opinion, you could ascribe a timeline to it. It'll be an ongoing goal.
No, yeah. Does anybody else have any more? Would like to add to it?
Yes, well, I would add, Mr. Chairman, removal of plastic bags sometime in our lifetime.
And can we throw polystyrene on there as well, being styrofoam?
I'm in.
Yeah, the plastic bag thing has been, I think in Boston they were working on banning
Yep.
that.
Yes, I mean,
You know.
we can look around and see what the process is that other towns have already worked at to do this.
And conceivably, again, we've got a special town meeting coming up in October, so if it's something we're prepared to move forward with as a question in October, and if we come back in 2 weeks from now and the board says that they want that as a priority and they want that for October, we'll probably can do it for October.
Yeah, why don't you
As Wes
definitely add
mentioned,
that on the list?
It's been done before, we're not
I've
reinventing the
added
wheel.
I think we should
Yeah.
add
But I'm not,
it
I also don't want to scare our businesses either by going at it so fast that they don't have time to adjust.
That's a good point. That's what I was wondering, is I wonder how much lead time people
Yeah.
need to switch
let's-
over.
Let's
I think
definitely
it's
look at that.
educating all of us to take our bags to shops.
Yeah.
To Stop and Shop, to whatever, and bring our
Yeah,
crop
no,
bags
I
there.
think that's a great point. I think that should get a little bit of a priority, absolutely.
And as Mary just mentioned, if we have something on the warrant in October, it doesn't necessarily have to be effective right away. You could vote it in October, effective, the beginning of the fiscal year.
Transition.
So you've got 6-9 months.
Letters out to the businesses and,
So,
No, I
there's
like
ways
that.
we can word it, and I would imagine that the other communities that have enacted such have taken that into consideration, a timeline of how to,
so Mike, that would just be simply a warrant article at town meeting?
yep,
Okay.
Okay.
to the best of my knowledge.
I mean, do we want to take a vote? It seems kind of like, you know,
Why don't you let me look into it?
No,
Okay.
Mike had a question he had to say.
Yes, Mike?
Mr. McLeod.
I didn't want to interrupt your discussion. Mike McLeod, 27 Highland Terrace. As far as outreach to people and to try to keep them up, informed and transparent, et cetera, if you sent out with the next tax bill a form asking people if they'd like to put their email address on, you could be able to collect a lot of email addresses with the tax bills. And they could use that list as a base to start sending out the news, like the selectmen's goals, anything that you feel is pertinent to the community. And I bet a lot of people would opt into that, rather than having to come to a meeting to find out, or go to the town website to find out where it is they sign up for certain newsletters. If you just put it in their mailbox when they can fill it out and send it back. I realize, Mary, it's a lot of work for you. I'm sorry.
Well, people are able to do that. If they go to the website, they can sign up for specific things that are posted to the website. So all the announcements, some people seem to think that I'm emailing them personally. With all due respect, I am not.
It feels that way.
Yeah, I know. But any of the announcements that are out on the website, if you sign up for announcements, you'll get them. So if you want to know when the selectmen's agenda is posted, you just click on that. And when the agenda's posted, you'll get a little message that the selectmen's agenda's posted and you can look at it.
I will say one of the goals I put on here, though, and we will take that under consideration, is to develop a comprehensive citizen engagement plan to increase information sharing, attendance at town meeting, and membership on town boards and committees. So we will take that under advisement.
Okay, thanks, Mike. All right, so that's it on that one. Okay, next we have discuss expanding membership of the final Plymouth County Hospital Committee. So, I believe, did we get confirmation?
Yes.
Okay, about Don, I know.
Yes, I saw him at the Plymouth County
I
Hospital
know,
meeting.
I got confirmation from him about Old Colony Planning, but I failed to ask him about that.
I asked, and you were with me, actually.
Okay.
We asked him, and it was
Okay, good.
posted as a Board of Selectmen meeting, just in case anybody thinks we were
Yeah, no, that's
violating
great.
open meeting law.
So then, we need to
And-
open up.
And we talked about it, and so what I said to him is, would you fill the citizen-at-large position, and then we'd still need to have somebody from the Board of Selectmen, which
Right,
means we'd
'cause-
have to increase that charter by one person.
Right,
And
okay.
actually, we have some other people who are interested in being on the committee. I've gotten an email from one of the other committee members. So right now, it's a 5-member committee. If you expanded it to a 7-member committee, which you should have a 7-member committee.
Right, okay.
7 members plus a Board of Selectmen member?
Right,
No,
Okay.
that would make an odd number
no. We have a 5-member committee
Yeah.
currently.
with
Yep.
with
With
the
or without Dawn?
with the member of the board.
With a member of the board.
Okay.
Dawn's no
Yeah.
longer a member, so we'll have to put a member
Yeah.
on. And then if we put Dawn on, he would make 6. So if we expand the committee to a 7-member committee, an additional person who's interested in being on the committee.
Plus a selectman.
Okay.
So you need a selectman and a citizen at
Right.
large.
Of the 5 people that are on the
Yeah.
committee, a
Right.
select, there's a slot
Yeah.
for a selectman.
Which is
So,
currently open. 'cause
Which
we
is
haven't-
open.
yeah.
So we put somebody on from this
Yeah.
committee,
Then
then
you've
we'll
got-
have a
then you've
full
got
committee
two
of 5,
slots.
and then you'll have, if you expand the committee to 7,
Someplace for
Dawn
Dawn.
could stay on the committee as a citizen at large, and then
an
another.
opening. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So does that just take a motion to expand the committee to 7 members, one of whom is a selectman?
It sounds like you
Second.
just made that motion. Yep.
Moved.
Yeah,
Second.
It's an ad
There you go.
hoc, so.
Yep.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Who seconded?
I did.
Laura did.
Wes made it.
Okay, so we now have a 7-member board of, not board, but commission, the Plymouth County reuse. So while we're here, I think Mr. Hickey wouldn't mind going on
Okay.
that committee, right?
Yeah.
so he can fill the spot of Mr. Howard, and Mr. Howard can fill the spot of a citizen at large. So I'm looking for a motion to appoint Mr. Hickey on the Plymouth County Reuse Committee.
Nobody else had an interest in it? Matt, you weren't
Oh,
interested?
no, I have an interest,
Okay.
but if Jim would
Yeah.
like to take it.
Listen, I can.
No, I was just asking, because I know Matt had been at the meetings, and I,
Listen, we
Yes.
have, I have several open positions, so
Yeah.
there'll be plenty to go around.
If that energy
Yeah.
thing has to.
But whatever you guys want, that's fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking it on, seeing how that's
All
my field
right,
of
so
study.
we'll find something else for you,
Okay.
Jim, and
Great.
so now I'm looking for a motion to appoint Selectman Dyer on the Plymouth
moved.
County
Second.
Reuse Committee. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Congratulations.
5-0.
good job. And don't we need to also make a motion to appoint Don Howard as an citizen-at-large member?
Well, I mean.
great
Do you want to
question,
wait until we
Laura.
formally get an application?
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, we want to keep everything equal,
Okay.
we really should go through the process, even though we've got every indication he's interested in.
Yep.
It would
Okay,
just
so
be-
will you
So we
guys
should
reach out?
open, so we should open that up. We should collect the applications like we normally do, and then maybe at our next meeting, we'll review the applicants for the other two positions.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair?
Sounds great.
Great.
Okay. All right.
We did miss one thing, vote selectmen committee assignments. That was like under appointments, but we moved the appointments around,
Oh, yes, you're right.
so.
Okay, so let's move back up to appointments. Thank you, Mary. Vote Selectmen Committee assignments.
So do we, I know we got a list at the last meeting of the open,
Let's see. if
is
it's-
that on item 6? The
I'm sorry,
openings?
the agendas, I didn't put the item numbers on this week, sorry about that.
Well,
No,
no, but
that's okay.
no,
Whatever it is.
the
Yes,
Don
it is.
Howard thing's.
It's
okay.
item 6, Laura.
Right, yep. Okay.
Okay, did you guys give it to any thought on what committees that you might want to
Well,
take?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to take these committees, but I do want to point out that there are several that I think kind of, by necessity, should probably be the same person. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, for instance, to have somebody on the Oldham Pond Committee without having them be part of the Central Plymouth County Water District.
The Central Plymouth County Water District is an appointment made by the Board of Selectmen, but historically, it has been either water superintendent or water commissioner.
Dawn could
Dawn would
stay.
actually stay on that, that's
Okay.
why I highlighted that one.
All right, that's why it's highlighted.
Okay.
And is there any, can you explain, Drainage Committee, does that really meet often? What's the status of that particular?
That's something we can talk about, that
Okay.
it does not meet, is Dave gone? They're inactive.
Okay, but on an as-needed basis,
On an
which isn't
as-needed
needed
basis,
very
right, and
frequently.
I don't know. if
So
the
that's
committee can
something
do-
that we may want to consider dissolving.
Well, you
at
need
some
it
point?
because you could have judgments on drainage that you need to have
Okay.
somebody make. You
So
do
then
need
we
it,
have to
it's
leave
just
it.
not being used often. And then I know, Mike, at the last meeting, you were trying to explain to us, and it may just be me, but the nuance was lost to me. What is the difference between the Old Colony Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Old Colony Planning Council Joint Transportation? And you were trying to explain that, I don't know. What is the difference, I guess is my question.
This one, the Metropolitan Planning Council, you said that has to be.
Oh, the
elected
MPO,
by-
yeah, the MPO is not an organization in which we have any appointment authority. The MPO is comprised of any sitting mayor in the RPA, as well as 3 elected selectmen from the area which the RPA serves. So if a member of this board or any board wished to be on the MPO, they needed to be elected by the Joint Transportation Group.
Okay.
So I think there was a misperception in the past that that this board had the authority to appoint somebody to the MPO. That's not the case, but you do have the authority to appoint somebody to the overall JTG.
Okay, so, I don't know how we want to handle this, but the one that I would really like, I would be interested in, because I think that it's compatible with the economic development, is the Old Colony Planning Joint Transportation one, because I think that they're going to play a very critical role in what we need to do there. and getting some funding, and I don't think we're getting our money's worth out of those guys, and I intend to do so. So that's my pitch for that, but
So I'm looking for a motion to appoint Selectman Kemet on the Old Colony Planning Council Joint Transportation.
So moved.
So it's moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor? 5-0, Mary.
thanks, guys, I appreciate it.
That was my
Okay.
number 2 choice, so now my number 1 and 2 are both gone.
We still have the Drainage Committee, don't worry. Let's see, what else we have on here?
Chairman Mitchell, I'd like to join the Open Space Committee, please.
Okay.
There goes number 3.
Is anybody else,
No.
okay, so I'm looking for a motion
So moved.
to appoint that Selectman Boss on the Open Space Committee.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Mary?
And what does the Economic Target Area Committee do?
The ETA committee would be called together if we had a business, a potential business in town, or I should say a business in town as well. Basically, they would take into consideration any application for a TIF, a tax incentive financing program, which basically would, if we were bringing a new business into town and they were building a brand-new building, the town would be, through town meeting, they would have the option to craft a TIF, a tax incentive financing program, in which, and it could go in all different directions, where you give them 100% break on their taxes, their real estate taxes in the first year, going all the way down through a 20-year cycle down to 0, and anywhere in between. Additionally, if we had a business in town that already had a building in town, and they made some improvements to it, we would have the ability through town meeting to also extend those credits 100% to 0% over either, it can be as short as 5 years and as long as 20 years on the value of just that addition.
And is that just a Town of Hanson committee?
Yes.
Okay, and who else is in that committee, in that particular committee?
Actually, I'd have to look, Laura, because there has been no occasion for us to use it, unfortunately, at this point.
All right, so
It
can we
had-
take
it
a
had
look?
been, it had been a selectman, it had been the town planner.
Typically,
It might have
someone
been
from our
the-
office.
Yeah, the town administrator. And actually, I think that's probably a committee that's appointed by the town administrator. I'll
Is
have
that
to
one of mine?
do- Yeah, could be. I'll have to look at that.
So can you guys maybe look
Yeah.
at that and get back to us on that? Can we mothball that until the next meeting? and-
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
especially if it's my appointment.
yeah,
which-
yeah.
But the only reason, again, I haven't looked at it because we haven't had the opportunity. I'd love to have the opportunity to take a look at doing something like that. I've had experience in doing those in other communities. They can be quite beneficial in terms of attracting and retaining business.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And again, I think this kind of comes in with all the other things that we
Yes.
just discussed. So, all right, well, so we can discuss that. Now, Energy Committee, was there, and you're interested in that one, Matt? Okay. So is anybody else interested?
You're taking all of mine, that's it.
I move to appoint Matt as the selectman for the Energy Committee.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And I think,
Okay, Matt,
Matt,
the
there's a
Energy
lot that we can do there to get that green community certification. They had started off and they really made great progress, and then it just sort of dissipated. So I think it's got to,
That's when it,
yeah, that's probably what it was.
No,
Now you're
that's
back
exactly
again.
what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
So hopefully you can revitalize it, get
What
this
else,
going.
Mary? What are we missing?
Drainage.
Okay, so Laura's going to stay on her committees. Jim, what about the school repair committee?
Yeah, we're, actually, I got an email today, so we're gonna be meeting very soon on that.
Okay, so that's still there. Final, let's see. Oldham Pond Committee.
That was a selectman.
That was,
wasn't
that
it?
was a selectman representative. They aren't terribly active. We can check with, it's really operated through Pembroke for the Oldham Pond. I'm not sure if they're.
Well, oddly enough, I think that within the last couple of weeks, I think Ed Thorne reached out to us with some questions, and I think at that point I had said something to him that, Don Howard was on the committee, and I want to have any future meetings with Don Howard involved, but I wanted to wait till the election was over, so. there is apparently something in the wind in terms of Olin Pond, so maybe it does make sense to ask that someone.
You want to take that, Jim?
Did you?
Yeah.
All right, I move to
Jeepers, give me
appoint Jim
something,
Hickey
yeah.
to the Oldham Pond Committee.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? 5-0.
And I'll reach out to him and say we've got someone who will set
Okay,
up
great.
whatever he wants.
So I'll give you a buzz.
And you might as well just finish it off and take the drainage committee too.
All right, give me the drainage.
You circle the drain.
So I'm looking for a motion to appoint Selectman Hickey to the drainage committee.
So moved.
Yeah.
Motion's been made and
Seconded.
seconded.
Yep.
All in favor? 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Hickey.
I abstain. I got all the good ones.
So that covers everything, right?
You didn't abstain, did you?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, I wasn't
He
looking.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is the town administrator's report. Mr. McHugh.
What about the approve and vote town possession auction properties?
Oh, yes.
Also, and I just want to say, since we've gone through all these committees, I meant to have a list of all the upcoming reappointments that we'll do at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I was at a meeting today in Millbury. It was lovely out there. So what I'll send everybody is a list of what's coming up, so you can
The
look
June
at it
30
prior to.
appointments?
Yeah,
Okay.
prior to the meeting, so you're not hit with it the Friday before.
Can we, in keeping with that, could we ask the chairs to let us know if there's been any attendance problems with any of the
Okay.
people? Since that is one of the bylaws,
Yes.
that attendance needs to be kept up. And obviously, there may be extenuating circumstances, but
Okay, approve and vote town possession auction properties. Thank you, Laura, I must miss that. And I just saw that in here.
LOLV,
Land of low value.
land of low value.
Mr. Chairman, what I'm looking for tonight, we started the process a while ago. As you know, we had a fairly successful auction of tax title lands back either in December or January, and it's always the ongoing goal to continue to try to shed ourselves of properties that we've taken by tax title for the purpose of one-time revenues and to get them back on the tax rolls for ongoing revenues. This particular group, and we've had this discussion before, this particular group is more of a statutory requirement at this point, that there is a limit on how long we are supposed to hold land of low value without going through this particular process. So I think the majority, if not all, of these properties are land of low value. Per our policy, we did send out the list of properties to all the appropriate boards and committees, which did get back to me within the last couple of weeks or so. We received pretty much no responses, other than the Conservation Commission has had a concern about one piece of property when we sell it, to make sure that there is an easement on it. And the only other information that I got was an email that was forwarded to me by the town planner that Joe Campbell had sent in regards to a couple of properties. But I'm not sure, Joe, if this ever went before your full board for consideration. So I don't know if you have any additional information to add to that. It obviously, I mean, the consideration needs to come from the full board. If the full board wishes to hold something off, I know that you mentioned a couple of properties on Monpont, but again, it would really have to be something from the entire board, and I haven't gotten anything. So I guess that being said, there really isn't any feedback that indicates that, and we should hold any of the requested properties for auction. So at this point, I'd ask the board to approve the list that it looked at previously. The list will not change. It will be sent, I've already sent it to the person, the attorney that we use for these, that we used for them last time, so she could kind of get a leg up on things. But if the board does vote this evening, I can give her the final authorization to actually move forward on this, and hopefully within before the end of summer, we can have them on the. We have another
So
auction. and
these
shut-
ones that are checked off, yes, the low value ones, so we'll auction, they're just saying we're not gonna get a lot of money for them?
Yeah, I mean, they're of low value. And the numbers that you see there, I believe the numbers you have in front of you That's not the appraised amount of the property.
That's the balance.
That's the balance of what was owed on it,
Okay.
and unfortunately, that, we don't recoup that.
Right, okay.
And this certainly doesn't clear out all of our inventory, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I just want to, I just want to make sure that we've got a potential
Such a
for-
long process to get to this point,
Yeah.
so. I mean,
Okay.
There's always inventory.
What's our ETA once we approve this? What's our timeline, Mike?
Well, again, I'm hoping by the end of the summer, we'll have the auction. It all depends upon, and again, I gave it to her to kind of start moving on it. There has to be a bit of legal work done in terms of title searches and things of that nature. There's the advertising that's required. I think it's very lengthy. I want to say it's about 3 weeks worth of advertising prior to the actual sale. The actual properties need to be posted with a sign. We don't have to do any of that. Actually, Laura Brown, who is the attorney to whom I'm referring, she takes care of all of that, but she'll start the process, the actual official process, tomorrow.
Okay.
And I actually gave her a heads up today that hopefully I would have a positive vote tonight and get in touch with her.
And what format does this motion need to be, that we move to sell the properties as noted on this?
Yeah, it can be as simple as that,
Okay, all right.
as noted on the provided list.
I move that we move to sell these properties as provided on this list
Or auction off these properties.
for auction. Yep.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions?
Just, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Mr.
go
Chairman. Mike, you and I
Yeah.
discussed this before the meeting.
Yeah.
But this is different, this is a different sheet than from the last auction.
Yeah.
But you would get that.
Yeah, I will provide, Selectman Hickey asked me to provide the last assessed values of these properties, which I will. I've got them all broken down in the actual cards right now, but I will forward that to the board in the next couple of days, just so you know, by and large, what they were. But the process is that once we go, and this is the way we did it, once we go through the full auction, I'll caucus with the auctioneer, with the attorney, with our treasurer collector, and with our assessor, and we'll go over the numbers and see if they make sense to us. They all made sense the last go-around. But if for some reason we really got lowballed on something, we have the right to turn that down.
So we're not locked in.
we're not locked in. So
Is
you
there a
can
way-
get an idea of what maybe we're looking at in the end, in terms of
And
total
we're using
value.
the same auctioneer as we did before.
Yes.
No.
Oh,
We're
we're
not,
not?
we're using the same attorney.
Attorney, okay.
There were, without getting too deep into it, there were some issues, and the attorney is recommending, she's going to recommend a different auctioneer this go-around, so.
Okay.
Nothing,
Good question, Joe.
no improprieties.
No,
Okay.
nothing like that.
I like Mr. Hickey's idea, and I'm just wondering if going forward, when you present this list of properties, if we could just include that going forward?
Yep.
Okay.
Good. Any more questions? Okay, all in favor? 5-0, Mary. On to the town administrator's report, Mr. McHugh.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Okay. I wanted to make the board aware of several different things, move through them as quickly as possible. I think the board is aware that a member of the Plymouth County Reuse Commission, Phil Clemens, and I went out on the 25th of May and witnessed the presentation that the 2 graduate students from the Conway School gave to their professors or advisors, at which time they presented, and I believe they presented it the following evening in the town of Hanson, some very interesting sketches, some very interesting designs. So we are moving forward in terms of them putting together a final recommendation that will come before the Plymouth County Reuse Committee, which then will be presented to the Board of Selectmen for whatever action the board feels necessary going forward. That being said, I think, without getting too far ahead of myself, I think what we're looking at doing is taking what the Conway School has presented and then going to the next level, which I think would be going to more of an engineering sort of an architect. And we had discussions back when we chose the Conway School, I want to say that was almost a year now, with a second firm, a second individual that we were very interested in, but at that time, we felt that the work that he would do would be a second tier, a second phase sort of work. So I think, again, not getting too ahead of myself, but I think what we will end up recommending, or the group will end up recommending, is to go to that next phase. If we need to find funding for it, go to town meeting in October. And I think the ballpark figure that he had given to us at that time was around $20,000. Maybe it's escalated and we ask for $25,000 through whatever appropriate means. And we bring it to that next stage with maybe some potential thought of doing something more grandiose in the spring. So just an idea of where I think we're going with that.
Mike, just while in keeping with that, several of us were at the Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee meeting. Was it last week, guys?
That was
Seems like it was so long ago, but
Wednesday?
yeah. And I just have to say that the passion that those folks from the Conway School brought was just amazing, and they really took a lot of time to get to understand the town of Hanson and to try to synthesize all of the feedback that was at the first meeting. And they came up with some amazing plans, and the energy is really high. There's a lot of engagement. I just want to say kudos to them, kudos to the reuse committee. It's a great group of people, and they've kept trucking along, and I think we're going to see some fantastic stuff up there.
Well, they were very well received by their advisors, by the professors at the meeting that I attended. It was very well presented at that point as well, and they got very high, at least verbal acknowledgement, thank you, from the people that are going to grade them in the end. So I think all around it's been a very, very positive experience with them. And again, I wasn't at the meeting that you're referring to, it was at the previous meeting, but I really was taken aback at the work they had done and the visualization of what potentially could be up there.
It's exciting, and what's really great is to see there were different people at the second meeting than were at the first meeting, and, you know, we're just getting a lot of people engaged in the process, and that's so, you know, heartening to see that. Some really good work coming out of there.
Okay, I'm happy to report that I have, within the last few days or so, to include into last week, put out several RFPs. The RFP for the engineering for the potential new highway building, I put that out. I did not put that out on the Central Register. I put that out similar to the way I put out the overall engineering services RFP several months ago, the way I put out the legal RFP. I've reached out and sent out to a number of civil engineering firms the RFP for taking a look at or designing the final design for the potential new highway building. So that's out there. I put a deadline, I believe I put at the end of this month, because we want to get that one moving along. I also, as you know, because I reported it already, I had put out the RFP for the cell tower, the potential cell tower at the middle school. We did have a gentleman come in. Mary's taken a couple of calls. We actually had a gentleman come in and ask questions about it. I have set up, or we're setting up a site visit for him, and I'm going to reach out to the people that also expressed interest to put a site visit together, hopefully do it all in one day. But what this gentleman requested, and I don't have any opposition to it, is he requested an extension of the deadline so that he could put some more information together and do some more groundwork, which I don't think is going to cause us to lose much time. And obviously, we want as many people as possible to bid on this, to make it successful and make it lucrative to
What's the
town.
deadline now, Mike?
The deadline now is the end of this month. So he requested a 45-day extension, so I'll push it out I'll probably push it out to the end of August. I don't think.
Which would extend to everybody.
Oh, yes, yeah. So actually, what
Yeah.
I'll need to do is not only inform this gentleman, but I'll send out a modification of the RFP to everyone that I've sent it to, as well as I'll need to put a modification on the Central Register, so.
That
just
happens
don't
a
you-
lot.
Yeah, it does. And again, if it was something that was a real time crunch, which it isn't, the 45 days is really not going to change things that much, and it obviously, it will, at least for this particular individual, this particular company, it'll provide them more time to put together a more comprehensive and hopefully more competitive bid.
Whatever we need to do to improve
Right.
self-service.
We've been waiting
We're all
20 years
about
for
it.
self-service in Hanson. An extra 30 days, I think we'll be okay.
We're going to get it done. I put out, and this is kind of minor, but not to the fire department, I put out the RFP for the epoxy flooring that needs to be done at the fire department. It was money that was voted at the last special town meeting, approximately $64,000. So that's on the move. And in addition, I also put out an RFP on potential reuse of the McQuon School, which it kind of runs the gamut. I put together a number of different potential uses, kind of ranked them in different ways. We've spoken about our desire more so at this point for potential elderly housing, affordable housing. So that sort of reuse is given a higher rank. The secondary rank, which I'm not sure if anyone will really put in on this, is for potential commercial use or potential rehab sort of use, things of that nature. And then I've also put on there uses that we're really not interested in. So that again, I put as a deadline. We're going to have a busy end of this month with a lot of RFP openings and some considerations. But what this does is, again, with any RFP really, it does not bind us to anything, and really, without saying it in the pejorative, it really lets us fish around a little to see if there's any interest in doing any of those things, and it'll put us that much further towards getting an idea of what we're going to do with that property in the end. In the converse of that, not to get, again, too far ahead of ourselves, I also have a firm coming in within the next couple of weeks. It's actually the firm that took down the Plymouth County Hospital for us. They are going to come in and they're going to give us an estimate on taking that down, full demolition as well as hazmat removal. So that we have, again, if that's the decision going forward, we at least have some sort of an idea of what it's going to cost us.
Well, I thank you for that, because I think that's the information that's going to make the McQuon Reuse Committee more effective, is having that foundational information that we can try to, take a look at the pros and cons and then present back to the Board of Selectmen on a recommendation. So I thank you for moving that ball forward.
I thought you'd be happy with those.
I'm thrilled.
So that's my RFP report. Again, without getting too much into names and particulars, I did have a meeting just this morning with the town of East Bridgewater in terms of the IT director that we were hopefully going to share. It got a little convoluted because the attorney that we are using at this point, and it has been turned over to Leo, the attorney that we're using at this point got caught up in a lot of other legal matters out of the blue, so things get kind of convoluted. So we just got a draft of a contract this morning prior to the meeting that we had planned on having in East Bridgewater. Gave that to Leo. Leo has some things that he needs to massage, because the way that, and I believe I explained this to the board, the way this is going to work out is this is going to be a town of Hanson employee that the town of East Bridgewater is going to reimburse us 50% on the salary and 50% on the insurance contribution. So originally it was going to be an East Bridgewater employee, and then we were going to send them the money. But the way that we had talked to the, not just this individual, but all the candidates, was that that person would have the choice of which insurance plan to go on, and whoever's insurance plan they decided to go on, they would become an employee of that particular town. So this particular individual has chosen to be on our insurance plan. So the contract had been written up to that point as an East Bridgewater employee. Obviously, there's some changes. We do things a little bit different like every town does. So the end goal at this point is to have a contract in place, to have at least an agreement in principle with the individual, and bring before this Board of Selectmen on the 9th, I believe the 19th is the next meeting, ask this board for a vote to hire this individual, and to agree to the municipal, the MOA between, why am I blanking on that?
Intermunicipal agreement.
Intermunicipal agreement with the town of East Bridgewater, and then with the target date of this gentleman starting, at this point, probably the beginning of next fiscal year. So, and we're really excited about it, and the town of East Bridgewater is very excited about it as well. Just as a matter of reporting out, I did go to the 29th May school committee meeting, at which I represented the two towns in voting to agree to the latest union contract. So that went forward, I guess 9-0 technically with my vote. I'm happy, and this has been a real pain in my neck. I'm happy to say that I finally do have somebody who's agreed to do an appraisal of the Streeter house, the superintendent's house. Every appraiser that I approached passed on it because it's crazy right now. It's a seller's market, and these people are extremely busy, and they just couldn't get to it in a timely manner. I just spoke with a gentleman yesterday who has scheduled to come out and take a look and start the process this Thursday. So hopefully that'll be a rather quick turnaround.
Good.
I think I've explained to the board that the process for selling this property is different from the process of selling tax title properties. It's more of a bid sort of, sealed bid sort of process. So as soon as we get an assessment, we get a good feel for what that should be worth, we'll go forward with that, and we'll move on selling that piece of property.
And is this person that we're having do the assessment, does he have expertise in an older house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and in all honesty, and I told him this as well, I want him to also give us his honest opinion as to whether or not, this is a home that can be, remodeled, or whether it's a tear down. I think one of the big kickers with this particular property is the fact that we were successful with the Board of Health in getting a septic system approved for 6 bedrooms. So that's extremely attractive, I would
Yes,
think,
yeah.
to the right buyer.
Yep.
This still on High Street?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, right, yeah.
Had a very, very good conversation the middle of the day today with a proponent, and again, I won't, because it's a private entity, I won't get into the particulars, but I think it's important for the board and the town to be aware of the fact that there is some interest in doing some things down on Main Street in the particular location that we're all interested in seeing some things happen. I was able to get a meeting together, a lot of it was telephonic, with members of Mass Housing, of Mass Development, our planner, and this particular individual representing some business interests down there. And the meeting was very successful, it was very productive, and I think it furthers the opportunity of having something that is not only, I think, economically viable for a business, but also aesthetically pleasing to the town, and will be a revenue generator going forward. So, again, we continue to move forward on that. We continue to help and push to the degree that we can as a town, recognizing that this is a private piece of property.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
But what about the car?
Social media policy.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's, you have been provided for consideration of vote at the next meeting, the tuned-up social media policy. I just didn't write it in my notes. Thank God I have memory. It has gone through, as I indicated. We sent it back to Kate. There was something that was approved back in November. The issue at that point was it was approved only as it would relate to non-union members. So we sent it back to Leo at one point because obviously we don't want to have a social media policy that doesn't extend to all employees. So Leo went back and he did what he wanted, what he thought needed to be done in terms of union considerations. At the same time, he also combined a couple other older things that were out there to try to streamline it and bring those into the fold. So I did get some comments back from Kate, which basically were, it looks fine. There was one suggestion that she made to me to consider, but it wasn't a deal breaker, and I was comfortable with the way it was written going forward. So what I will ask you to do is look at that, ask you to vote it in. We'll have it on the agenda at the next meeting. Vote it in at the next meeting, and then we will go forward as appropriate to try to get, speak with the unions about putting that into their CBA, but it will be effective, obviously, for all non-union members.
As of,
the vote.
okay. And then anybody else, AKA union members, if at town meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not at town meeting. No, the union stuff will have to be negotiated.
I'm sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
The town meeting does not need to
Yeah.
vote on this in terms of its applicability to everyone else.
But you'll be able to vote it, I mean, you'll be able to negotiate it right away, right? You don't have to wait for the
We'll-
2 years.
Leo and I will start talking with the unions about it as soon as it's approved at the next meeting.
Okay, good. That was my question.
Okay, so we'll discuss that. And also, Mike, I know we had a conversation about the piece of property on Old Pine Street, the conservation property with the Water Commission.
Old Pine Drive.
Old Pine Drive, sorry,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, is that where they want to do the new well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity to talk to
Phil. Yeah.
Mr. Clements, who's the chair of Conservation. And I know this came up because I saw in the paper that
Yeah.
you had issued the bid, you had opened up the bids for some clearing and
Yeah.
stuff to be done there. And it's, that property is in conservation. And I was quite alarmed to think that we would be clearing brush, building a road, and doing test pits, test wells on a piece of property that town meeting allocated as a piece of conservation property. When I talked to Phil, he indicated that they weren't actually going to be doing a taking. They were going to be doing an easement.
Yeah.
So I reached out to the state, and I just want to make sure that we've got this clear. There is precedence. In 2014, in the town of Stowe, they did something similar. It requires an act of legislature. We have to go to town meeting for this, because this, again, was in conservation, and even though it's a very small portion that's going to be taken and used for water, it's a different use than what was allocated through the legislature when it was taken into conservation, and it's got a conservation deed restriction on it. And so we'd need to take it to town meeting, and have town meeting approve it, which I doubt anybody's gonna, have a problem. We need water, it's a viable location. But one of the things that the gentleman that I spoke to indicated was that probably the town, AKA the water department, would have to give into conservation a portion of land equivalent to what they're taking from that. So in the Stowe example, it was 3/4 of an acre of a different piece of land in a way to mitigate the piece of property that they were taking. So I just say this as a long-winded way of saying we need to keep this in the back of our mind so that we're not unwittingly violating that conservation deed restriction. And we're being proactive about making sure we're getting the approvals before we move any further on that. So, anyway.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Hickey.
Mike.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions
Yeah.
about the social media policy. The original policy that was brought up at the beginning, I think goes back to 2013. There was one out there.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
2013 that the board had started to look at, but
right, but they never
never
finished.
finished, yeah.
Correct.
When Laura and
Yeah.
I came on board, and Kenny was here too, we voted, I think you said November of
November.
2017.
Yes.
And it has taken until June 3rd to get that back, because they added some verbiage about union.
Yes.
It's gonna take another 6 to 8 months, because once the union employees' lawyers get a hold of the social media policy.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going, it's gonna be 5 years on a social media policy.
Yeah.
We're gonna end up having to have two. One for non-union employees and one for union employees. But the problem with this one is that I have, is that the three of us voted on this in November. And it's taken 7 months for a change and get back to us. I'm not sure when they looked at it or when the change occurred, but is there any way that we could be notified? Because I have talked to you
Yeah.
about this. It's taken 7 months.
Yep.
And it's still not done. We're gonna look this over, and at our next meeting, we're gonna approve it, or not approve it.
Well,
And then it's gonna go to the
yeah.
union lawyers, and it's gonna take another 6 to 8 months.
For the union side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I
Well,
wanted to say.
I guess, also, Mike, I'm just wondering, did he blackline the changes to you? Did he, or Kate, I don't know if it
couldn't
was
tell.
Kate or Jay, or who the heck, Leo, or who?
It was between Leo and Kate.
Okay, well, is there a black line version? Because I really hate to have to start from square one looking at this when we already approved a version, and now I don't know what the differences
I
are.
could get you a highlighted
Okay.
change, yeah, with change bars and things
All
of
right,
that
that would be
nature.
helpful.
Sure.
Okay. Approved minutes of May 22nd, 2018. Did you guys and girls get an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes for May 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? 5-0. Okay, committee reports. Laura, the 200th Anniversary Committee.
Well, we had quite a fabulous 200th anniversary meeting last week. We had several new people show up that weren't on the committee, one of whom applied for a position, and that was quite lovely. We had a gentleman come and bring up a concern that we're going to look at and that Marcus Lynn is trying to work with him on. He feels as though he would like to have a all-encompassing fallen hero memorial with the names of all of the soldiers and others that we have lost in service in the town of Hanson. And in his estimation, we have things all over town for various,
Right.
wars and battles, but we don't have any all-encompassing kind of thing. And our conclusion really was, hey, we just attended a Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee meeting the night before, because Matt was there too, and maybe we could do something with that and, and find a way to work that in. So
tie it in.
I circled back and actually, because I was talking to Phil Clemens about a million other things, threw that in there, because I was talking to him about the Plymouth County Hospital reuse. He was well aware that this gentleman would like to have that done. Also mentioned it to Mary Ann, so I think that might, take place there. And then the 200th Anniversary Committee is going to try to support him. It isn't necessarily going to be a 200th Anniversary initiative, because we're really all about trying to figure out the celebrations and all that stuff, but I think we'll work with some of the other committees on trying to help this gentleman. It seems like a worthy goal, it seems like something that should be addressed. It was a little surprising when he pointed out that we, unlike many, many towns around us, we don't have an all-encompassing, you'd literally have to go to like 10 different places in town to do that. So we did that, but also just a lot of brainstorming. I thought there was a lot of really great energy, a lot of really good ideas. I think that they're going to officially write to the Board of Selectmen asking to have that front portion of the former 4-H Extension Building, AKA currently being used as the food pantry, for a pop-up store where we're gonna sell, various things relating to the 200th anniversary and try to make some money doing that. Also, there are some display cases currently in the Bonnie House that the Historic Society has gotten, and they would like to perhaps do a little mini museum in there while we're selling things. And I just say this in a way to prep everybody that probably will get an official letter. I can't imagine anybody's gonna really have any concerns about that happening. I happen to be at the food pantry on Saturday cleaning with the rest of the board, and so I, of course, had to investigate what kind of shape the front room is in, and it actually is in quite good shape. And with a little spiffing up, I think it would be ready for prime time. So we've got a lot going on, a lot of activities, and a lot of good energy. We would welcome people. Again, we're going to just keep saying this at the risk of boring everybody, but the more the merrier. We've got a lot of activities, a lot of fundraising that needs to be done, and right now we're a fairly scrappy little committee, and we need to build that out. So that's all.
Excellent.
That's all I've
Thank
got
you.
on that.
Plymouth County Advisory Board, Selectman Hickey.
Actually, I want to first thank Mary and Mike for preparing me for the meeting and getting this information to me after the meeting. And if Selectman Bloss has something to do, I would not mind going to this meeting again. We are one, and there was a whole bunch of stuff, but we're one of 27 communities that's in Plymouth County. And they have one member from each town there. I found it very interesting. The one thing that I was disturbed by was that they actually sold a piece of property in Brockton for $700,000, and they wanted to purchase two pieces of property in a different town for $660,000. And they asked us to vote on it when we were only handed, the information on this minutes before the meeting. So I found it very interesting. I voted no. I was one of 7 communities that voted no. It still passed, but it's a parcel of land that we've owned, the county, for 104 years. I discussed this with Mike last Friday, for 104 years, and they haven't really done anything with it. So they're looking to move forward. But I found it very interesting to be part of that, as the Plymouth County.
It's good connections, I think, with other towns. It's a good way
Yeah,
for us
absolutely.
to connect with. Yeah.
So, yes, Selectman Ross, if you have something to do, we could swap.
So noted.
That's,
Yeah, I thought it was.
that's why we appointed you as the alternate.
Yeah, well, I thought it was actually pretty cool, because and Mary will tell you, I was a little nervous, but she set me up with everything I needed, and I was prepared going in, and then, I'm gonna go and check the property, and see actually who it, bothers the abutters and stuff like that, so I just thought it was a lot of money to, throw on people, because there was a lot of new selectmen there, I wasn't the only one that was brand new.
So
Did you voice
have
your
they already sold it? Did they already sell it?
Yes, they
Yeah.
sold a piece of property at 155 Elm Street in Brockton for $700,000.
Was that the old probate courthouse?
Yes, and they went through several RFPs, and each one of them took a certain amount of time, more than the 45 days. We were talking months and months and months, and that's why I couldn't understand why there wasn't a study done on the land of what they could do with it, but, we can be out of here by 8:30, so. I could talk, I literally could talk about it for an hour.
That's right, we're not gonna allow that. Waquan School Reuse Committee.
We just got the update from Mike, so
Good.
we've got things in progress, and we'll meet once we get that
The Hanson
information.
School Repair Committee.
I mentioned it earlier, I got the email today, we're gonna be meeting very soon, looking at a couple of projects.
And the Highway Building Committee, we haven't set another meeting, so last time we met was 3-4 weeks ago. So does anybody else have anything for this board?
Yes.
Annette Benato, 72 Brookside Drive. I was just curious, so that cell tower that,
Mr. McHugh.
is getting RFPs for, is that a set location at the Hanson Middle School for that cell tower, or will you be looking at other locations?
No, it will be, the RFP is only for a location at the middle school. It's not a general sort of any town land sort of thing.
Okay. And has there been any consideration about the radiation that comes from?
That will all be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
I explained to the Board of Selectmen, I think in a previous meeting, and I know that I explained it to the school committee, because the school committee asked a similar sort of question, that I will not jeopardize the health of the students or the citizens of the town of Hanson, if such as, holds out to be valid. I know there are two schools of thought as to whether or not cell towers do cause concerns in terms of health issues, and that will be taken into consideration, dependent upon the type of cell tower that's proposed, dependent upon the actual location on the middle school ground that's proposed. It's generally a fairly open, we have an area in which we are identifying as the site for the potential cell tower. There's no specific, it's going to be at this particular location. So when those proposals come in and we review those RFPs, that will certainly be one of the major considerations going forward.
Is this out on the leaching field?
Excuse me?
Is this out on the leaching field area?
No.
That's a great question, though.
And the other thing is.
And a question again that was brought up by the school committee.
Yeah, it's gonna require a town meeting vote,
Yeah.
once we get closer. So now it's more in the information gathering stages, and so, but that's an excellent question.
Yeah, it will not, the way that the town meeting voted, when the town changed the bylaw to give us more flexibility in terms of siting a cell tower on public property, it was included that anything that I would agree to, or the Board of Selectmen would agree to, eventually has to go to town meeting to be vetted out as well. And certainly, if there are still questions about that, which hopefully we'll have answered by then, if there continue to be concerns and questions, town meeting has the right to say no to it. And that's quite clearly spelled out in the RFP. So it's going to be a long, however, very inclusive process. Actually, not to belabor it, but in addition to the town meeting vote, in addition to the Board of Selectmen vote, I've also agreed to allow the school committee a vote. So obviously, it won't get by the school committee if they've got concerns about health as well. So there's an awful lot of layers of protection in there.
So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. This meeting's
So
adjourned.
don't leave, I have stuff you need to sign.
Thank you, Carol.
Not gonna screw that up this week.
Tracy.